Today, I'd like to talk about a little-known legal thing that is not covered on the evening news that much, but it's really important. President Trump's administration is seriously considering suspending habeas corpus. Well, what exactly is this legal term, and why would the Trump administration even be thinking about using it at this time?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion.
Habeas corpus. Well, it may sound like a bunch of Latin mumbo-jumbo and legalese, but it is really important. Habeas corpus is based on English or British law, and believe it or not, both Canadian and the United States American laws are based on this principle. And that principle of habeas corpus really means that you cannot be arrested or apprehended without due process. In other words, they can't just lock you up and throw away the key without telling you why and giving you your chance, your day in court, so to speak, to fight those charges. So why is all of this so important now? And why would the Trump administration be even thinking about suspending habeas corpus in the United States? Well, here's where it gets tricky. The U.S. Constitution allows for habeas corpus to be suspended, but only in cases of rebellion or invasion. In other words, some kind of war, when public safety requires it. So under extreme circumstances, the government can take away that right in the United States. Now, it's one thing if we're talking about a full-blown civil war, like during Lincoln's time, but can a modern administration like Donald Trump's administration suspend habeas corpus without a war, without a rebellion? And if so, why would they want to do so? Well, let's take a look. During Donald Trump's presidency, we saw the federal government test the boundaries of emergency power in ways we hadn't seen in decades. From deploying federal officers to American cities like Portland to floating ideas about invoking the Insurrection Act, the Trump administration made it clear that they were willing to use extraordinary tools in the name of law and order. And it wasn't just talk. In 2020, during the nationwide protests following George Floyd's death, Trump tweeted about the domination of streets and threatened military deployment. His Justice Department even considered classifying some protesters as domestic terrorists, a label that could be used to justify extraordinary detention powers. Imagine a scenario where the administration frames civil unrest or even political dissent as a national security threat. Under that lens, it becomes dangerously easy to argue that the suspension of habeas corpus is necessary for public safety. And once that door is open, who decides what is considered a rebellion? What is considered a war? The scariest part is there is no clear line, no requirement that Congress formally declares war, no airtight legal definition of what justifies suspension. And we already saw during Trump's presidency how executive power can stretch those limits, especially when backed by partisan loyalty and a narrative of a severe crisis. If a second Trump administration, or any administration, faced widespread protests, political violence, or even electoral disputes, it's not hard to imagine a declaration of a national emergency being used as a means to override habeas corpus. Now, you may be thinking, I'm not a protester. I'm not an activist. What does it matter? Why should I care? Well, you should care because once habeas corpus is suspended, no one is guaranteed due process. The government can detain people without charges, without a trial, without access to lawyers, all under the veil of an emergency, even if that emergency is made up or stretched. This is not a slippery slope, folks. This is a political cliff. The real danger isn't whether President Trump would suspend habeas corpus. It's that the framework already exists to do so. The precedent has already been flirted with, and in the wrong hands during a moment of national stress, it could become reality. So stay alert when you're watching the news and watching President Trump's press conferences. Using terms like national emergency might sound like leadership, but sometimes it's just the sound of the Constitution being folded in half or bended to suit extraordinary needs. If this video made you think, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more information on the laws that affect both Canadians and Americans. You won't hear this stuff on cable news, but we'll be covering it here from time to time as it comes up in our political processes.